Life has a peculiar way of weaving intricate tapestries, doesn't it? Sometimes the threads are bright and strong, forming patterns of joy and unwavering connection. Other times they become tangled, frayed, and even dark, creating knots of confusion and heartache that you never anticipated. My story, I've come to realize, is a mix of both. A narrative where the most beautiful threads of friendship became intertwined with the painful, sharp edges of forbidden feelings, leaving a pattern I'm still trying to decipher. It began, as most significant shifts do, subtly. Sarah and I had been inseparable since the awkward days of middle school. We navigated the treacherous waters of teenagehood side by side, sharing secrets whispered under blankets at sleepovers, surviving disastrous first dates, and dreaming aloud about our futures. Our bond was the kind that felt unbreakable, forged in shared laughter and tears, built on a foundation of complete trust and understanding. She was my confidante, my partner in crime, the sister I chose. Our lives were so deeply enmeshed that it was hard to picture one without the other. Then Mark entered the picture. Sarah met him during our first year of university. He was everything you'd imagine. Kind eyes, a genuinely warm smile, intelligent, and with a quiet confidence that was instantly appealing. Sarah was smitten from the start, and it was beautiful to witness. Their relationship blossomed quickly, easily, like a flower finally finding the right sunlight. As her best friend, I was, of course, introduced early on. We started spending time together, the three of us. Movie nights at their place, study sessions that turned into late-night conversations, weekend trips to nearby towns. I saw firsthand why Sarah was so captivated. Mark wasn't just kind. He was thoughtful, a great listener, and possessed a dry wit that could make even the most mundane moments feel special. He fit into our dynamic effortlessly, adding a new layer of comfort and camaraderie. Initially, my feelings towards Mark were purely aligned with my feelings for Sarah. He made her happy, and that was enough for me to genuinely like him and enjoy his company. I was the supportive best friend, the third wheel who never really felt like one because their ease and affection for each other were so natural and heartwarming to behold. I celebrated their milestones, offered a listening ear during their occasional tiffs, and genuinely wished for their happiness. There was no room for anything else in my mind, no space for complicated emotions to take root. The soil of our friendship was rich and fertile, and I was content to simply stand by and watch their love grow, happy in the warmth of their shared joy and my secure place within their lives. Or so I thought. Looking back now, with the benefit of hindsight and the heavy burden of what came after, I can see the almost imperceptible cracks that started to form in that perfect picture. It wasn't a single moment, no dramatic realization under a moonlit sky. It was slower, more insidious, like a vine gradually creeping up a wall, its tendrils finding purchase where you least expect them. It was in the way he'd look at me when I made a joke that only I found hilarious, a shared look of amusement that lingered a second too long. It was in the comfort of his presence during quiet moments, when Sarah had left the room, and the conversation between us flowed so easily, so genuinely. It was in the sudden, unexpected flutter in my chest when he did something simple, like holding the door or remembering a small detail I'd mentioned weeks ago. These weren't grand gestures. They were quiet, almost hidden signals that something within me was shifting, rearranging itself in a way that felt both terrifying and undeniably real. And with this dawning awareness came the first wave of guilt, a cold, heavy stone settling in my stomach, because these feelings, however small they seemed at first, were pointed in the absolute wrong direction. Towards the man my best friend loved, the man who was unequivocally hers. This was the beginning of the quiet storm, gathering strength within the facade I desperately tried to maintain. The introduction was over. The real, painful part of the story was about to unfold. The quiet storm I mentioned in the beginning. It didn't stay quiet for long. Those subtle shifts, the lingering glances, the easy conversations. They weren't fleeting moments. They were seeds that had found fertile ground in a place they absolutely shouldn't have. My feelings for Mark began to grow, not like a gentle sprout, but like a persistent, thorny vine, wrapping itself around my heart and squeezing tighter with each passing day. It was an insidious process, marked by moments of sharp clarity followed by desperate attempts to shove the truth back into the shadows of my mind. Spending time with Sarah and Mark, which used to be a source of simple joy, became an emotional tightrope walk. Every shared laugh between them felt like a pang in my chest. Every affectionate gesture they exchanged was a stark reminder of where I stood. On the outside, looking in, harboring feelings that were not only inappropriate but felt like a betrayal of the deepest kind. The guilt was a constant companion, a heavy cloak I couldn't shrug off. How could I, Sarah's best friend, the person who was supposed to be her biggest supporter, be harboring such treacherous emotions? The self-recrimination was relentless. I'd lie awake at night, mentally replaying interactions, searching for a moment where I could have steered things differently, where I could have built a wall high enough to keep these feelings out. But they had already found their way in, and they were making themselves at home. My interactions with Mark became strained, at least from my perspective. I became overly aware of myself around him. Was I smiling too much? Was I making too much eye contact? Did my voice betray the tremor of nerves I felt whenever he was near? I tried to act naturally, to be the same easygoing friend I had always been, but it required a conscious, exhausting effort. Simple compliments from him would send my mind reeling. A casual touch on the arm would leave my skin tingling long after. Each one of these seemingly innocent interactions was a tiny spark feeding the fire I was desperately trying to extinguish. Maintaining my friendship with Sarah became increasingly difficult. The ease that had always defined our relationship began to fray. I found myself withdrawing slightly, afraid that the truth was somehow visible in my eyes. I couldn't confide in her, of course. How do you tell your best friend that you're developing feelings for her boyfriend? The words were unthinkable, a sure path to shattering the bond we shared. So, I kept it all inside, building walls not just around my feelings for Mark, but also around a part of myself from Sarah. Our conversations, once effortlessly deep and open, started to feel a little more superficial. I'd listen to her talk about her relationship with Mark, offering the expected support and enthusiasm, all while a knot of pain tightened in my stomach. My forced smiles felt brittle, and I constantly feared that she would see through my facade, that her sharp, intuitive gaze would uncover the messy, ugly truth I was hiding. There were moments of sheer agony, like watching them hold hands, or seeing the genuine love in their eyes when they looked at each other. In those instances, the reality of the situation would hit me with full force, crushing me under the weight of my own inappropriate feelings and the impossibility of the situation. I wanted their happiness, truly I did. A part of me screamed at myself to just be happy for my friend and let these feelings fade away. But another, more stubborn part of me couldn't seem to let go of the quiet hope. The impossible, what if, that would flicker in my mind despite my best efforts. This internal battle was isolating. I was surrounded by people I loved, yet I felt utterly alone with my secret. The person I would normally turn to for comfort and guidance in any difficult situation was Sarah, and she was, ironically, at the very center of my turmoil. It was a lonely existence, living a double life within my own head, trying to be the supportive friend while grappling with feelings that threatened to destroy everything. The tangled threads were now a complex, suffocating mess, and I had no idea how to untangle them without causing irreparable damage. The development of my feelings had led me to a precipice, and I wasn't sure if I could step back without falling. Living with that secret, with those misplaced feelings, felt like carrying a lead weight in my chest every single day. The internal battle raged, a constant tug-of-war between my loyalty to Sarah and the undeniable, confusing pull towards Mark. There was no single dramatic climax, no tearful confession that burst forth in a moment of unbearable tension. Instead, the conclusion of that intense, painful chapter arrived more subtly, a gradual understanding that something had to give, that the situation was unsustainable and was slowly eroding not just my peace of mind, but the very foundations of my most cherished friendship. The guilt, which had been a constant whisper, grew into a roaring accusation in my own head. I saw how happy Mark made Sarah, witnessed their bond deepen, and the stark contrast between their genuine connection and my hidden turmoil became unbearable. I realized that my feelings, however real they felt to me, were a destructive force in this equation. To act on them, or even to let them fester silently while pretending everything was normal, felt increasingly wrong. It was a painful awakening, acknowledging that the what if I had clung to was not a possibility, but a fantasy built on the potential pain of two people I cared about deeply. Making the conscious decision to let go was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It wasn't a switch I could simply flip. It was a process of mourning, grieving the loss of a possibility that was never truly mine, and grieving the idealized version of friendship that now felt tainted by my secret. I started to create a little more distance, subtly at first. Plans were occasionally missed. Texts took a little longer to reply to. It wasn't a rejection of Sarah or Mark, but a necessary space I needed to breathe and to heal, to allow those intrusive feelings for Mark to slowly, hopefully, recede. This distance, unfortunately, did not go entirely unnoticed. Sarah, with her typical sensitivity, sensed a shift. There were concerned questions, gentle prodding about whether I was okay. And that was another layer of pain. Having to deflect her worry, to offer vague assurances when all I wanted to do was pour out the messy truth and beg for her understanding. But the risk was too high. The potential cost felt like the permanent loss of the person who knew me best. So, I maintained the facade, albeit a slightly cracked one, and focused on navigating my own emotional landscape in solitude. Where do things stand now? The raw intensity of those feelings for Mark has faded with time and distance, replaced by a dull ache and a profound sense of regret for the internal struggle I endured and the subtle strain it put on my friendship with Sarah. Our friendship thankfully survived, but it is different. There is a part of me, the part that held that secret, that I haven't fully reconnected with her. There's a lingering unspoken history that sits between us, a reminder of the time I wasn't entirely present, entirely honest. It's a scar, a testament to the storm I weathered alone. This experience taught me invaluable, albeit painful, lessons about the complexities of human emotion, the blurry lines that can sometimes exist between different kinds of love, and the immense weight of guilt and secrecy. It taught me about the importance of boundaries, both external and internal, and the destructive power of allowing feelings to grow in forbidden territory. More than anything, it taught me about the resilience of friendship, yes, but also its fragility when trust is implicitly, if not explicitly, tested. I am no longer on that precipice. I have found my footing again, albeit on ground that feels a little less certain than before. The tapestry of my life is still being woven, and this painful chapter is now a part of its complex design. It's a reminder of a time when my heart was pulled in conflicting directions, a time of quiet turmoil and difficult choices. And while I wish I could erase the pain it caused, I carry the lessons learned forward, hoping that the threads I weave from now on will be stronger, clearer, and guided by a deeper understanding of myself and the true meaning of loyalty and love.